Hey guys, today we're going to be making some pumpkin soap dough and leaf soap dough and incorporating that into as decorations on a loaf of soap. And so for this video, I actually didn't think I was going to be making a video until after I had already made the soap dough. So basically when making the soap dough, it's just like you would any other batch of soap, only it's formulated. I formulated it just a little bit differently, so it's a little more pliable. It may not be a balanced recipe, like it might be kind of low on the cleansing or whatever, but I'm not too picky about that because they're just going as decorations on top of the soap. It's not the actual soap bar that you're going to be using. So I'm going to put the recipe that I formulated and like to use in the description box below. So basically I just made the soap dough using the recipe below, and I put it in my mold like you would any other soap batter, and I covered it up in plastic, and that was the only difference. So, and also I did not gel it. So that's about all the difference is from making regular soap and then soap dough. So it's just formulated to be a little more pliable, and it will harden up, you know, if it's exposed to air. So it will harden up just like a regular soap bar, you know. So it's kind of fun. As you'll see too, I'm not a perfectionist, or I don't have all the nice crazy cake fondant tools. I just had basic supplies that probably you might also have in your kitchen, just for regular baking or regular cookie cutters. And so anyway, I hope that you can comment below if you have any suggestions or if you enjoyed the video. Thanks guys. This is the soap batter I had made, and I just put it in my mold, and then I let it sit covered up and didn't gel it, and this was the result the next day. So this soap is 1 day old, and I am just cutting off a piece of dough to work with so I can easily manage it. The dough is still very workable. Obviously it's just been a day, but it does take a little bit to get it started, and then the more that you play with it like Play-Doh, the softer and more dough-like it will become. And then I'm just going to take about the amount of soap that I need to make one pumpkin, and I'm just going to roll it into a ball and shape it as desired, as you will see in the video ahead. Now to get the ridges on the pumpkin, I just use a skewer, and I just gently press down along the edge of the pumpkin and kind of roll it with the structure of the shaped dough. And this is all up to you on like how artistic you want to get, but you can see like those ridges, and so I'm just trying to make this look like a white pumpkin. Now I had previously mixed some of this soap dough with cocoa to make this brown, and I will be mixing some soap dough in a little bit, and you'll see how I did that. But I just want to attach a stem, and so I just poke a tiny little hole in the top of the pumpkin, and I'm just going to form that little piece of brown soap into the shape of a stem and sort of just attach it by sticking it together. Now to make some colored pumpkins, I'm using paprika and turmeric. And I just want to note that I really preferred the look of the turmeric as a colorant for this soap dough over the paprika. Now there are other ways to color your soap dough. You could have colored it before you poured it, or colored like different colors and then put it into like different sections for soap dough. But I just didn't know at the time what exactly I would be doing with the soap dough or exactly what colors I would need. So I just kept everything white and I'm coloring as needed. So I just added powder to a little bit of the soap dough here, and then you just work it in and just smush it and just keep on working that dough. And the more that you squish it around, the more pliable the dough becomes, and it is thus easier to shape into pumpkins. Making pumpkins is so much fun because there's so many different shapes you can do. This one was a taller, skinnier pumpkin, and then again you just take your skewer or whatever tool that you happen to have on hand and you make these little marks on for the ridges of the pumpkins. And I really had a lot of fun making these. And it's rare you ever see a perfect pumpkin in nature. There is always, one side that's flat when you go to the store, or part of it's green, or there's always usually some kind of imperfection in a pumpkin. And so I didn't worry about my pumpkin ridges being perfect or the shape of it being perfect. And that's, I think, why I enjoyed it so much, because I wasn't aiming for perfection. Now we're going to add turmeric as a colorant and make a pumpkin with turmeric. So I just have a little bit of soap dough there. I scoop a teeny bit of turmeric into it, and I'm just going to smush it all together until it's well incorporated. Eight hours later, I have my own little pumpkin patch. Okay, so this dough that I'm using for the leaves is the same soap dough that I'd used for the pumpkins. It's the same batch, but it's 3 weeks later. And I had kept it wrapped in plastic, and it was still just as pliable as when I made the pumpkins 3 weeks earlier. Now, Normally your soap dough won't last forever, like it will harden up eventually, and sometimes if you're not using like a really great like a plastic, or like some air can leak through that plastic, or it could be exposed to air through little, you know, surface holes or whatever. So anyway, I'm going to make these leaves without all the fancy fondant cake making equipment. So because I didn't have that on hand, and because I needed to make these this day, I couldn't wait for like to order like all these special nice tools for making soap dough or the cake, the fondant. I'm going to use what I have on hand, and which is going to be cookie cutters, and I'll show in a sec. But I just added paprika and a little bit of just like a drop of paprika infused oil, just to make it softer a little bit. I added oil to that little section, but I did not add oil to any of the others that I end up working with on the same day. So I just as with the pumpkins, I just smush and I blend until it's like the color that I want it to be. Now generally, if your soap dough is too sticky, you could use arrowroot powder or cornstarch to kind of help you roll it out. I do have a rolling pin for this soap dough, but I didn't use it because it's a little bit sticky, and I didn't want to have to deal with the arrowroot powder that I have, and so I just flattened it with my hands, which I ended up liking because the imprint, like the texture from the glove, put the texture on the leaf, making it look a little more natural and rustic. So again, those are cookie cutters that I use to get that maple leaf, and then if you want, you can add like little veins. I'm doing it on this leaf, but I don't end up doing it on the other leaves because I found that it looked better just with the textured, the grainy texture look from the gloves. So, and then I'm poking a hole in this soap dough because I'm going to be using these leaves not only as a soap top decoration, but I'm going to be using it as part of the label. And so I just poke that hole in and continue on my merry way. So at this point, my pumpkins are about 3 weeks old, and they have been covered in plastic, and my leaves are fairly fresh. I just had made them the same day, and I made my soap loaves, and I kind of textured the tops with a spoon a little bit, and they're still soft. I just finished making the soap, and then I just placed the pumpkins where I wanted them to be, and now I'm placing the leaves right on the top of my soap batter, and I just push it down just a little bit, and I'm going to be gelling this soap, and I find the pumpkins and the leaves, they stuck to the soap so well. So just be mindful of when you're placing these pumpkins or decorations of where you're going to cut. Now for the pumpkins, I did not want to cut those pumpkins, so I placed them strategically 20 bars or 20 pumpkins to each loaf, because each loaf made 20 bars. And then the leaves, I don't care if they got cut, so I just placed them kind of wherever I could fit them. did gel my soap, and this is the next day. I unmolded the soap, and it turned out really nice. And when I cut these bars, I did not use my multi-wire cutter bar. I used a knife because I could get a cleaner, more precise cut with a knife as opposed to the wire. So now it's time to wrap them.